so excited for Greg to join us today and talk about his journey, where he's been, where he's going, all the things that he's cultivated in his life. Greg, thank you so much for being on the show. And if you wouldn't mind just giving our listeners a little bit of information about you and all the good stuff.
Thank you, Tessa. It's an honor being here today. Well, briefly, I help ambitious entrepreneurs and investors find a thriving franchise fit, or I can flip their business into a franchise as well. So people generally come to me when they want to get into the franchising world, but they just don't know how to go about doing it, how to find a good franchise, what to look for, how to go through the investigation process, how to fund it, what are the franchises out there that they can look at on
Right.
there. And I work with a little over 500 different ones. I've been doing this for about 12 years. And the best thing, I'm free to all my clients.
That's great. So tell me, I myself have, I don't know, I've been just curious about franchises and looked into different businesses. When I left the corporate world and had some capital that I was looking to invest and diversify my portfolio, and then also, leaving the corporate world, I still was hungry to work. Right? I'm the type of gal who likes to roll up her sleeves, get in it, make things happen, and be an integral part of anything that I'm doing. I can delegate. I've learned that, through the corporate world, but I also very much like to cultivate and build something. So tell me why franchises? What is it that spoke to you about franchises? What made you get into kind of the art of being able to consult and help people build their own?
Well, Tessa, what got me into franchising was a long, long time ago in a land far, far away. That was when I was in high school, and I went to work for Taco Bell and moved up in the Taco
Okay.
Bell world and found out that I was actually working for a master franchisor named Kathy who owned 50 Taco Bells throughout the Sacramento, California area. So fast forward, after 30 years in the corporate world, had enough of that. And I decided that, and in the meantime, I actually bought with a friend of mine while we were being engineers over at Motorola Semiconductor and Freescale Semiconductor. I bought rental properties. A friend of mine and I bought dry cleaners, privately owned, and storage units. And owning that privately owned dry cleaners was a bit of a challenge, especially when you got a full-time job, because we didn't know a thing about dry cleaning. How do you do that? Who do you talk to? Who do you ask? So we both got out of the corporate world, and I sold my half of the business to him. I said, that part's yours. He said, I'll take it. Let's go for it. I said, that franchising thing was really cool. So I wanted to get back into that because I didn't have the latest, greatest idea, and I didn't want to be out there by myself on an island like we were with the dry cleaners. I
Right.
wanted a team of people that could help me out. I wanted to step right into a business where I had a mentor that's going to show me how to do it, where I had other franchisees that I could make friends with to show me how to do it as well. So a whole tribe of people, a whole team of people that are just helping you grow your business. That's why I got into franchising.
Love that. I love that because so often, when you've reached kind of the culmination of a point in your life, a chapter in your life, whether it be corporate or whether it be a career that you've had thus far, or maybe it's a shift in what you're looking to do. Maybe it is learning something new. Maybe it is delving into something new. And it sounds to me that there can be a point in time where there's overlap, right? Between what you know and what you're comfortable with and what's sustaining you, and then what you're learning and finding out. And I personally, having built two brands from the ground up, is not for the faint of heart. And it is, and having a patent on a supplement and going through the patent process and knowing very little of the food industry and FDA regulation, all of that wonderful things. The idea of coming into something that's fully baked, right, conceptually, and that you can step into and say, okay, I don't have to learn everything from ground zero. The walls are around me, right? Conceptually, this has been done in the past. It has been proven, done right, I imagine, to be successful. Let me get in there and see. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense to me. And to be quite honest, when I was looking to get into something, I didn't even think about it. I mean, I did think about different investment opportunities, but I didn't necessarily think, okay, franchising might be the route for me. So, what would you say to somebody who's listening right now and is like, well, I never really thought about that? Why should they?
Good to do a compare and contrast on that, Tessa. What you want to do is look at, one, if you've got a good idea and you want to start your own business like you did,
Right.
look at that. What does it take? What is breakdown? What are the costs going to be? What do I got to do to build it up? What do I got to do to grow it? How long is it going to take? What kind of money? Who's going to help me? An existing business. Look at an existing business, privately owned existing business if you want as well. Same thing with that one. What do I know about that business or industry that I'm getting into that I want to purchase? What do I want to look at? What's the background on that one? That'll be yours. Both of those will be yours. Totally do whatever you want with them. Everything is for you. You get all the money. You don't have to share the profits with anybody. All yours. Good points about that one. Franchising. Franchising, on the other hand, you don't have the latest, greatest idea. You don't want to start from scratch. You want a team of people to help you do it. It's going to cost you a little bit for all of that information where the franchisor has already made all those mistakes that you and I made along the way as we're getting into our own businesses. We made a few on there. They've done that already on that. So they've got that whole plan all ironed out for you. Now you're going to pay a franchise fee up front. One-time franchise fee is generally around $50,000. Doesn't matter which franchise you get into, service industry, brick and mortar, no difference. Ongoing royalties are going to be between 5 and 10% off the top. Pretty much, that's pretty universal throughout most franchises on there. What you want to do is you want to take a look at what do I get for what I'm paying. Will it get me to where I want to be 2 to 3 years quicker than if I was to go out there and buy an existing business or do it myself? And then most importantly, is it worth it to me to do that?
Right. I love that so much. You're speaking to me here because having done the other outro, I'm like, oh, this might be something we need to talk after the show. And it's interesting to me because you mitigate, while there still could be risk in all things. And the best possible things that you need to lean into are always going to have some sort of risk. You are mitigating some of it, right? Based on the initial capital you have to raise to invest into it, by looking at the business proposal, how successful I'm imagining has that franchise or that business done in the past, area that it's in. So let's say we're having this conversation and I come to you, as a client to kind of start to uncover and learn this whole process. And let's say I don't even know necessarily what type of franchise I'd want to get into, but the idea of it in theory is I'm prepared to make the investment. I feel very comfortable and confident with this. I've already did the latest and greatest ideas and I have that out there, right? I'm ready to do something different at this point in my life, right? Where do we go from there? Where do we go to uncover which direction we should go in, like you said, whether it's service or whether it's the food industry or whether it's, the dry cleaners or the car wash or whatever. How do we determine that?
Well, the first thing about that, Tessa, is that most people don't know which franchise they want.
Right.
That's pretty universal. They do know, however, what they don't want. So
Okay.
that is what I ask them. What industry or business do you absolutely want to stay away from? That part's pretty easy. So I've got a whole list of questions. But what you and I do when we sit down together is we take a look at three things. We take a look at where have you been? You know, everything, all those boxes in your head are full of great information, great experiences. Where have you been? What do you bring to the table on that? Where are you at now? So where are you at now? Meaning, how much time do you have to invest in a franchise? You want to
Right.
do it full time, or are you going to do it, semi-passive, 15, 20 hours a week, 10, 15 hours a week, something like that, where you're managing the manager, you're managing the profit and loss statement. Where are you at time-wise? And then how much are you comfortable investing money-wise in a franchise? Not how much money you got. We want
Right.
to make certain that you're comfortable
Of
with
course.
that investment level. And then we want to take a look at, now, where do you want to be 5 to 10 years down the road?
Okay.
And then I've got a whole list of questions, other questions that we delve into, things like, do you like working with skilled labor? Do you prefer non-skilled labor? Does it matter? Service industry, brick and mortar, a lot of those. But what we want to do at that point in time is, after we go through my questionnaire and I get through asking you lots of questions, we're going to develop a plan around where you want to be 5 to 10 years from now. Do you need one franchise, one territory to get you to where you want to be? Do you need three? Do you need a couple different types of franchises? But we will develop that plan together to get you to where you want to be down the road so that you can live a nice, happy life and do what you want, when you want, and have the money to do it.
I love this so much. This is so exciting because it's a completely different angle. And I was speaking with, a guest earlier this week who was talking about just the cyclical effect of what's gone on with the economy and the job market, right? So we look at 2 years ago where it was just, everybody was exiting their jobs. We were saying, we're good. We're going to go out and blaze our trail, right? It's this huge exodus. I myself was one of them from the corporate world. And I was like, I have to follow my passion, right? I've got to do this. And it just felt that there was this post pandemic upheaval, which is so natural and it makes a lot of sense. And I love that. And then there is the great regret, right? Over the last couple of years where we're like, okay, it's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. And dreams sustain you and feed you for so long, but there has to be more, right? You've got to nourish it. You've got to do the work. And when it's on your own and you're so used to that corporate environment and the structure, being on your own and untethered can feel so unnatural and just scary, for lack of a better word. So now we have a lot of people trying to get back to where they were or find jobs. And that can almost feel like you're trying to put on an old jacket that's two sizes too small, right? You've outgrown it now because you've grown. And it's time to look, and maybe it's not necessarily following that dream initially that you had. Maybe that's just on the side and it's still a goal, but it's going to take you so much more. But here we enter in Greg, who's giving you this entirely new idea to think about, that there's other options out there. You do not need to come up with the latest, breakest, newest thing, because I'll tell you, in the time that you spend thinking that you need to do that, you're going to exhaust yourself, right? There's other options of output that you can put all this energy and work for yourself in a lot of ways. And that's what I love about this, especially now, as I've been told that we're in the era of the great detachment from our jobs, right? We're feeling very detached. We're feeling like we're ready for something new or we're not buying into it. And where that in itself can be addressed, this is also something that could maybe ignite a lot of the energy to learn about something new. So, how exciting is that? And to leverage, I love how you said that those skills, that foundation that you've built based on your experience, that's translatable and transferable to this, it sounds like, to determine what you want to do, which is great. So, when we get into the franchises itself, what is the risk that you inherently take on? And I'm sure there's multitudes of them based on the different business that you get in. But I would imagine, and forgive me for my limited knowledge on this, but what is it that you should be looking at as far as how much risk you're willing to take on with the business? And do certain industries, I would imagine, have more risk than others?
Correct, Tessa, on that one. So first off, if you're getting into a franchise or any kind of business or becoming an entrepreneur, you've got to have some sort of risk tolerance. It's
Right.
always going to be risky. So mitigating risk. What do? Starting up your own business yourself, probably the biggest risk. Buying into an existing privately owned business, a little less of a risk. You got a little background on there. When you're getting into a franchise, you're reducing your risk even more by having a proven track record of success of that franchise. Now, within franchises and within industries, if you want to reduce your risk even further, and I got to tell you, some people have a lot of risk tolerance, some people don't that they come to me. So it all depends on the person. You want to reduce your risk tolerance as much as possible. Then what you're going to want to do is look at a franchise that has got 100 franchisees or more to begin
Okay.
with. Generally speaking, 5% of the franchises of the 4,000, 5,000 franchises in the US, only about 5% make it to 100 franchisees or more. Okay? So now you reduce the risk tolerance. How long have they been in operation? 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Long as possible. Two things for that one. On there, one, you've got a longer track record of success, and now hopefully you have other franchisees to call upon who have been in that system for a longer period of time. So they've been through the ups and downs. So now you can check how have you done. Whenever you're looking to do a franchise, you're always going to speak with as many franchisees as possible to get a really good picture of what goes on in that franchise system. So the more franchisees you have to call upon, the better. That doesn't necessarily mean that a franchise that has 300 franchisees in it is one for you. I put plenty of people into emerging franchises that only had 5 or 10.
Okay.
More of a risk, but you're working more directly with that franchisor who actually created that system, as opposed to now when they have 100, 300 franchisees, they've got more of a team. So
Right.
maybe a little bit more of a corporate structure on that as opposed to maybe one-on-one training. But reduce your risk on that, on the franchise, go with the franchise system, longest track record as possible, as many franchisees as possible. And one last thing to add to that, you were talking about industries in there. If you want to reduce your risk even further, look for franchises that have something that everybody, at least almost everybody, can use
Okay.
on a regular basis, and things that people have to use, essential services that people have to have.
Hmm.
What do we all need?
I love
Air
that.
conditioning,
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
heating, right? Plumbing. You know, your plumbing goes out, your neighbor's not going to appreciate it if you're going to the bathroom outside. Not a good thing. You
Right.
want to get that plumbing taken care of. Electrical services, senior care services on that. So think of the things that people need on a regular basis with a what we call the essential services that opens up your customer base much larger. People have to use it, then find a good solid franchise. And some of those franchises, you think of individual franchises and you think they're just one franchise, but a lot of
Right.
those franchises are part of a bigger team of people on that. Authority brands, uh, neighborly brands, they have 10, 15, 20 different franchise groups within their franchise systems.
Okay.
So now you're reducing your risk even further because now you've got a big conglomerate, a huge powerhouse of franchisees in their system. So
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be a franchise for you because again, you're getting into a more corporate structure when you get into that as opposed to some one-on-one. Depends on the person, but those will reduce your risks quite a bit more on that.
Wow, that's incredible. I want to take it back to the very beginning of what you were speaking about risk tolerance, because of course, my thoughts are running through here a million miles per hour and they're coming through, and then I step into the gap in between, and I'm like, what a beautiful phrase for life, too. You can take that onto life because we all have to realize that the life is not in our control, right? We are an active participant. We are designing the life that we'd like to see through our habits, through where we put our attention, through our thoughts, and leaning into risk, right? You get into a new relationship, it's risky. You try new food at a new restaurant, it could be risky, right? You travel somewhere, it's risky. You buy something without trying it on, it's risky. And those are just small things, except maybe not the relationship, but with work as it comes, right? With work, there needs to be an appetite for risk. And I feel for a lot of people who could be listening, you might have been in the corporate world now for 15, 20, 25 years. You've earned the right to take some risk and understand that it can be such, and usually is such a beautiful thing. And the appetite can shift, right? So you can start small if that's the capacity that you feel confident. Because I do feel the energy you put behind taking on this risk and the conversations that you'll have with Greg need to have a positive, confident tone to it, right? What you tell yourself is what's going to happen, right? Your thoughts are very powerful. So accept the risk that you're willing to tolerate. And I imagine as you get comfortable and you learn and you work with Greg, that tolerance could potentially grow, right? As you gain the knowledge and you want to take more of a risk. But again, that's all, for the sake of this conversation. Then I also imagine from a legality standpoint, there's insurance that you would have as well. Is it a personal insurance that you would have? Because I only know that I've gone into work as LLCs or businesses that has its own support and insurance tied to that. And then also as say a yoga teacher, I have my own insurance policy there and have people sign waivers. How are you protected in going into this as an individual then?
Yeah, you don't, it's exactly right, Tessa, with your LLCs and with the corporations, you don't go in as an individual, you go in as a corporation.
Perfect.
You separate that. And I've got attorneys, franchise attorneys that'll help you with that. The insurances that you're talking about and everything that you need to do the business, that's where the franchise comes in. With a
Perfect.
franchise, you don't want to be, and you won't be wondering or guessing, what do I do next, or how do I protect myself on there? They'll have that plan of action for you. This is the license that you need. This is the kind of insurance that you need, because they want to be protected as well, because you're part of their system on
Right.
that. They'll have all that for you, but don't go in as an individual. You sign on as a corporation, as an LLC. You get that structured so that you can separate yourself
Perfect.
uh, from the personal. So your personal and business life got to be separate. Even mine is, even though I run my business by myself, only myself, and out of my house, I still have the separate structure on there so that my business is separated from my personal life.
Absolutely. And for anybody listening, I think that is so imperative. So when you're in the process of going into entrepreneurship or starting a new business or an idea, you need to talk to those individuals. So, Greg or I can always point you into a direction or you can look into it. But please, please, I know you're excited and maybe you're talking to clients or you're putting out a service out there. Do you make sure that you're protected? Right? And make sure that the world we live in, you are dotting the I's and crossing the T's because we want to make sure that you're going in there with the proper, liability insurance and anything else that you could possibly need. And that's why, Greg does what he does because it's the whole package. Right? It's so you can get in there and sleep at night. Maybe you're so excited. Getting in there. We all have those nights, right? But you're not losing sleep over knowing that your assets separate from what you're investing in and working on aren't protected. And that's what we need to make sure of. So I think that's beautiful. So again, I kind of spit it back on myself, and here I am thinking about all of these amazing things because this is such a brand new idea and a novelty for me to think of. And I think about franchises and I think about the ones that I go to on a regular basis, right? Those needs basis. So things that are going to be around, things that are most likely going to be resilient. I think about the coffee shop that I go to, or the doggy daycare that I go to, or the different ones that I find, and it's like, oh, it's our store, Sweet Frog. My son loves frozen yogurt. He would be there all the time if I had those. But it's just one of those things that are, I don't know. I feel like they never leave. There's always a need for it. Is that how somebody who's listening right now who has never thought about this, but you've just turned on a light bulb in their mind and they're like, this is the avenue. I have to look into this because it's speaking to me right now. Should they start thinking about those places that they frequent? Is that a good route to take?
That's a good start, Tessa, definitely. Look at those places that you frequent on there. When you frequent them, it might be the same time everybody else frequents them as well. So
Right.
if you really want to look into it, go in there on off hours to see how busy they are. So it looks good on the surface, but you got to delve a little bit deeper on that. You don't have to be an expert in every industry, any industry that you want to get into in a franchise, but you've got to know something about that industry before it's all said and done, which as you go through the process of investigating the franchise, you'll find out. But where is that money coming from today? Where is that money going to come from tomorrow for that particular industry on that you're looking at? So be careful of the fads. Just make certain that those types of businesses, especially the brick and mortar ones that you're talking
Right.
about there. I was talking about the essential services, which is the service industry franchise, which is a little bit different. But the brick and mortars, doggy daycare, wonderful, absolutely wonderful business. Another good one that has been around and stood the test of time
Right.
on there. But take a look at the business. You got to enjoy it. When it comes down to it, you've got to feel it, and you got to enjoy what you're doing when you get up. So it's you never work a day in your life if you enjoy what you're doing on that. But get to know that industry and where it's going to go in the future before you get involved in that.
That's great. And you're exactly right. I mean, get creative with this. What is something I like dropping my dogs off at the daycare. I like the daycare. I like the employees are smiling when they're in there. It smells a little bit like dog, which is a little bit much. I don't know if I want to be there all the time. But you just in the sense of it's really important to me. And it's also a place where I will spend the money because they're my children. I have two small kids. I've got my dogs. We love them. We don't want anything to happen to them. When they call me and they're like, can we give them a pumpkin sweet treat? And I'm like, sure. How much is it? They're like $15. I'm like, they deserve it. And it's those impulses. I spend more money on my dog sometimes than I think I do, on myself. And I love it because they're happy. So I think those are beautiful things to look at. And I love the service industry because in the corporate world, a lot of those skills are transferable. And I know for me personally, and for those listening, think about it in your own experiences. I loved customer service. I loved connecting with people. I did it well. I trained people on it. It was one of those things. So it's okay, how could something like that be brought into a franchise and what does that look like here and there? And I also, you spoke about something that I think is so fundamentally important. sometimes when we get into entrepreneurship, when we are coming up with an idea, we don't have anybody to talk to. We are on a one woman island out here, and it's, you feel so alone, and you can read the books, but I'll tell you what, picking up the phone or going and grabbing coffee with somebody who can give you the lay of the land of the business that you're going into, that's priceless. To have those connections and those contacts, I'm going to venture to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that contributes fundamentally to the success of these individuals who invest in the franchisees. The connection, the camaraderie, the network that you build, that I imagine expands, past this whatever industry it is, right? You build those relationships.
You
Wouldn't you?
do, absolutely. What you're doing is now, not only do you have that franchise that's going to teach you everything and going to be your mentor to build up that business, but now you got that whole team of other people. So when you talk to those franchisees, before you get involved in that franchise, not only are you getting information from them, vital
Right.
information about how the franchise is run, but you're making friends along the way. And all of our franchises, they get together at least once a year. They get all the franchisees together, talk about the industry, talk about the business, where it's been, where it's at now, where it's going to go in the future. So you're always getting together, sharing ideas. And for the most part, most franchises have a protected territory, good and bad. I mean, you
Right.
got to stay within your territory. But what that means is that the franchisees are not competing with each other. So
Mm-hmm.
now they're helping each other grow because they
Lift.
know they're not competition with each other. The more each individual franchisee grows that business in their area, the more it helps the entire franchise system grow.
I love that. It eliminates that competitive nature. No, I'm not going to tell them or this won't work. But it allows you to pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm struggling with this or introducing this, or I know you've done this before me. Can you tell me where are the pitfalls, where are the successes? And I'll tell you what, if we had more people that we reached out to in life and we're like, hey, give me the skinny on this and saved me like weeks. So shoot, I mean, I called my mom when I was having my kids and I'm like, tell me how to do this. There's no book on this. And sometimes you do need to just learn trial and error and go through it. But goodness, if I had people that I could call all the time and be like, hey, can you give me a heads up what's in the road ahead? How much more successful would we be? How much sooner? Right? And it's not a shortcut. It's leveraging each other, which we could do much more in the world, but for this business sense would be so dynamic. I love that too. Now, you said something about the territory, so that you do have that kind of locked in territory. And that just made me think, do you handle domestic and international franchisees? I mean, how does that work? I was just thinking about ones that are internationally as well for when you continue to grow.
Absolutely. There's international can go both ways. I can bring people in from other countries into the U.S. on an E2 or EB5 visa, and we can take franchises out into other countries. That's I've done that out into another country, I think once, maybe
Okay.
twice on that one. That one's a bit more challenging because not as many franchisees will do that, but that is entirely possible.
Okay.
Franchisors like to go out when they get to that point and grow in other countries. They need somebody in another country to be their spokesperson
Of
for
course.
that. So they're generally going to be looking for somebody who wants to pick up a bigger territory, maybe become what we call a master franchisor, which
Hmm.
is they'll develop a larger territory and they're like the right-hand person of the franchisor because they know that country, they know the rules, they know the laws, they know how to get by it. So now it's just a matter of the franchisor bringing their systems and processes into that country, having somebody there to support them, and then helping them find other franchisees in that country. So yes, absolutely possible.
I love that. That's fantastic and so exciting. So much good information. And I know I'm fueled up and energized about this. So, for those listening who just need to know more, they want to connect with you, what should they start the process of just before they reach out to you? Because they're just excited right now and they're like, I have other options. I'm looking to do something different. This is sounding really good to me at a very high level, pie in the sky, right? Because I'm sure people are going to get out with stars in their eyes and be like, okay, right, I'm fueled up, I'm ready to go. What should they do to get organized with this thought if they're serious about it? What would be the first steps before somebody would reach out to you and say, all right, Greg, I'm ready to take the next step. I want to work with you on this. what information should they bring to the table?
Read the book.
Real Freedom. For those who can't see right now, get his book. Grab his book. It's Real Freedom. He's showing it right now. We'll link it when we, if you're driving or listening, we'll link it in the show notes, or you can reach out to myself or Greg and we'll get that for you. Grab the book. Okay? You're next.
So I prefer that you go to Amazon and buy it. That's my first choice. You don't have to. Go to my website, go to book resources, click on the link. You can get a PDF version for free on that.
Perfect.
Not while you're driving out there.
No, don't put the phone down while you're driving.
That's a good way to get organized. But the first thing, Tessa, that if you for your folks out there who are thinking about getting a franchise, think about the why. What are you looking to get out of that franchise?
Right.
Organize yourself as far as what is not exactly maybe right with what's going on right now. I don't see myself, being where I want to be in a few years. I need more time with the family. What's your why? Why are you looking into franchising? Why do you want to even consider it? Why now? And what do you want to get out of it? Think of those things on that. And that way, when we have our conversation, if you decide to move forward with that, then it goes a little more smoothly when I know what it is you're trying to get out of it. I think there's a franchise out there for just about everybody, but not everybody's for franchising.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm not here to sell you on the franchising is the greatest thing since sliced bread, because
Right.
it's not on that.
Right.
However, I'm here to help you gather the information to make that decision, an informed decision. But think about it. What is, if you're going to organize yourself, what is your why? And what do you want to get out of it?
I love that. What is your why? And I think people, we've talked about transferable ideas and skills, right? So I think the risk tolerance, right, in life, I think we all need to have some kind of risk tolerance, and we need to think about that, and we need to commit to it, right? When we're going into something and we're deciding our thing, even when we start to dream, commit to it. Don't backpedal, right? And say, no, I'm just kidding. Commit to it and know that there's going to be uncertainties. It's gonna feel uncomfortable. You're growing, you're expanding. That's what life's meant to do for you when you're trying to continue to move and evolve. And the most success you're gonna find is when you push yourself out of your comfort zone. Get behind yourself, give yourself a kick, push it, accept the risk tolerance, and say it every day. What I've been doing with myself is envisioning the woman that I'm becoming. And every day I wake up as her. I read the script that I've written for myself. I'm going to go out there in the world and I am this woman. And even if it's a darn fine act, I'll tell you what, by the end of the day, I believe it. I believe that I am her and I can do it, and I've accepted the risk tolerance that it's going to be slightly uncomfortable until I fully expanded into this new version of myself, right? Who's doing these things. And then when you talk about the why, I think that's so fundamentally important. Why do you feel maybe uncomfortable in the role that you're in right now? Why is it feeling that it's not giving you the energy or the fulfillment or the contentment? Is it the job, or is it something that you need to look deeper into? And I can definitely talk to you about that. Or then if you have that why, talk to Greg about it, right? Start to uncover, here is the why. And like he just said, we're not here to sell you the pair of shoes you don't need, right? If you don't need them, you don't need them. If they're not for you, we're not going to give them to you. But we're here to have the candid conversation. And that conversation might open doors that are for you. Or it could be the franchise, and this could be the conversation exactly what you need to hear. So I love that. Understand the why, get the book on Amazon, and start to uncover what is this next chapter of you, and become the architect of your life, I really don't know. I mean, I would imagine, Greg, prior to this, when you think about how many years you've been doing this, was this the full picture? Did you know right off the bat that this was going to be the design? Or was it starting just to be an outline, and then as you stepped into it, it unraveled and became what it is?
Great question, Tessa. It kind of unraveled along the way. We had our dream of owning a place like we have now, out in the middle of nowhere, a lot of land, a lot of critters, grow our own food.
Love
Uh,
it.
but it changed along the way on that, and it did kind of unravel itself, and it kind of built on itself
Yeah.
after a while, which is a really good thing. It's just dynamic
Yes.
on that.
For those of you who can't see Greg, he's all smiles. He is a happy person, and I can see the contentment and the light and the joy that you love what you do, because when you speak about it, it's evident. And for those that are listening too, remember the dream does not need to be fully baked. The canvas can be half complete. You could have the color palette, you could have the idea. Let's unravel it together, right? All you have to do is keep taking the steps, as uncomfortable as they can be, because it's an unknown variable. It's not the unknown we're scared of, it's the past. Leave it behind. Let's keep going. So the dreams, have the dream, have the idea, have the why, and then see what it becomes, right? And accept the fact that it can change, right? The acceptance of the change and the acceptance of, wow, I wasn't dreaming big enough, right? Now look what this is, look what this can be. You might not, this might seem huge. This might seem like, oh my gosh, I can't, I'm going to get off the phone and I'm going to go back to work and just forget about this conversation. Don't. Write down on a piece of paper the why. Just say why, question mark, you know? And then think about the title of his book, Real Freedom. And what is that for you? And I don't want to hear about what your parents did. I don't want to hear about what the other people at work are doing. I don't want to hear about this or that or what you should be doing. I want to know what you want to do, right? What is freedom to you? A smaller house somewhere out in the country? I love all the critters. I will take all the animals too. You know, is it more time to write your schedule? Is it being at franchisees and being able to work with people? Is it connecting with people? Is it building something? Is it pursuing your dreams? So I think this is absolutely incredible. What is one thing that you would tell yourself if you could go back, 25 years from now, something that you gained this experience and this dream that you've built? What's one piece of information that you would tell yourself?
Start earlier.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I should have. Probably should have taken some entrepreneurial classes in. I don't think you can do it in high school. Couldn't do it in high school back when I was. But if you got any high school or college, uh, if you got a vocation that you want to learn, learn it. But I would have told myself, open up your open up your mind to other possibilities, and take some classes if you can, if you're going to go to college, and find out some other options, because it's always good to have options. And I would have told myself, open yourself to other opportunities and other options, at least consider them.
Hmm. Absolutely. I love that. And I would say think outside of the box, right? I think so often for so many years we've been programmed to follow a certain model or protocol in different variations because it's so comfortable, right? It's tried, it's true. Bum, bum, bum. And when I reflect on my life, high school, college, out, job, working, and children, married, children, check, 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 check. I remember telling my husband at the time, I was like, well, I need to have my first child before I'm 30 and this, and I'm looking back and I'm like, who was writing that book? And it's all great and it all, worked out just fine, and my kids are thriving and stuff, but I wish I had taken a step back at that point in time and said, what makes me smile when I get out of bed? What are the things that I like doing? What are the things that, as it might sound, that kind of set me alight, right? Energize me when I'm doing it. And I did find those things in the corporate world, connecting with others, customer service, this and that. And those are the threads that I carry through. So don't be discouraged, because I know that you're doing some of the things right now. They're just maybe not called the same things. And they're the things that make you smile, they make you happy, they're energy givers, right? And then hold on to those and pull those through. And then maybe also, as Greg said, start earlier reflecting on the environment around you. Is your environment an energy giver? Are the people you surround yourself with, do they give you energy? And that might not always be the case. And sometimes with family, we can't change that, but we can give them energy too and start to embody that. And then they're going to start to do it for themselves. So your environment is conducive to your success. The people you associate with and hang out with, the podcasts you listen to like this one, are all conducive to it. So let's start now, right? Let's find out what energizes us, what sets us alight, and the things that we can do, and let's start earlier. So great, Greg. So for those that are listening right now, where can what if they've already ordered the book on Amazon, they have it coming, overnight delivery tonight, They wrote down the why on their desk. They plan on working at that when they get their mid-afternoon slump. And they are ready to connect with you next week. So, how can they find you and what should they do next?
You can find me on franchisemaven.com. That's franchise, M-A-V as in Victor, E-N.com. There's a link to my scheduler on there. Schedule a call with me on that one. Or you can email me at greg@franchisemaven.com. Or while you're having your afternoon slump, just step outside, pick up the phone, give me a call,
Love that.
361-772-6401.
Look at that connection at its finest. There are still people in the world who will pick up the phone and call each other. Make the call. Say, Tessa dared you to, and you're here, and you had the why, and you gave out your number, and you're going to make the call, and you're going to start now, right? You're going to start doing it. You're going to start listening to yourself, and you're going to make that change. So great. Thank you so much, Greg. I can't wait to have you on again. I can't wait to connect with other people. Everybody who's listening, reach out, let Greg and I know how this resonated with you, what questions you have. Tag us in those comments. We're going to put all of his information out in the show notes. So you will have that, and I can't wait for you to just uncover the why. Thank you so much, Greg. It has been an absolute pleasure.
I appreciate you having me today, Tessa. Thank you very much.
Thank you.